Hello, this program is to show you some of the programs in the system that would render a mesh. In the example, we use a barn. The directory that contains the files are pool, u, class, cse520 mesh, and there are some files here. Here we have a few classes that help us to build the mesh. So we have the XYZ class, which is very simple. It just tells us the triple XYZ, right? And then we have a pawn class that extends or inherit the XYZ that defines a three-dimensional point. Remember that a point is different from a vector. So when we add a vector to a point, we get a point. When we subtract one point from the other, we get a vector. So we have another class called vector3. It defines a three-dimensional vector. Again, it inherits the XYZ class. So you can see that we have different operators. A vector plus a vector gives us another vector. A vector subtracts another vector gives us a vector. And we can have the cross product, the dot product. The vector plus a point gives us another point. A function calculates the magnitude and normalize the mixed vector and normal vector. So here's a program that demonstrates how to use the classes. So like here we define a vector and iterate XYZ, an object A. So we just print it out, and then we define a vector, another vector, we normalize it, print it out, and print out the magnitude, and we add two vectors together, subtract two vectors, find the cross product of two vectors, and the dot product, and the sum of a vector and a point, etc. So we can compile it using set the pro to VP demo. So this should be O here. Okay, so it compiles, and so it when execute this, so it prints out all the values. So you can examine it later. Now here's the mesh file. The mesh file, okay, as a class. So this is a polygon. It defines a face of a mesh. The n defines the number size of the polygon on the face, and a vector called the vertices. This will contain the vertices of the polygon or the face. Actually, this will be the indexes of the vertices. So we have a list, another list that defines the vertices, and then this vector contains the indices to the vertices. And here another vector called normals that defines the indices of normals at the vertices. So the mesh contains of the n vertices, number of vertices, number of normals, number of faces, and the vertex list, normal list, face list. So we have a function read data that read the data from a file into these variables, the n vertices, n normals, n faces, the vertex list, normal list, face list. Okay, and then the render mesh will render the mesh. Here's the main thing. The read data. So we open a file, we hardcode a file called data.txt. So this is our data file. So the first thing that we read will be the number of vertices, there are 10, and then the number of normals 7, number of faces 7, and then we with the vertices. So the vertices are three-dimensional points. Okay, so this divide the 1 point 0, 0, 0. There's a vertex, another vertex, another vertex, and then within the 7 normals. So each normal is a vector. Say the negative 1, 0, 0. So this is another vector. So we put that into the normal list. And then we have in number of faces. The number of faces are polygons. So each polygon has say the number of vertices and the indices to the vertices, indices to the normals. So we can compile the file, say make. So it tells you it generates the executable bond. Maybe let's take a look at bond. So bond is to read the data and then start the program in the display. It render the mesh. Render the mesh is to display the mesh. And let's take a look at the render mesh. Oh, it's here, render mesh. So cool the face, cool the back face, and say display face one face at a time, along with the normals. So this is pretty straightforward. So now we execute this bond. So you should be able to see an image like this. Okay. So you can try this file yourself, and you can modify the data file and get another mesh.